Girls do run the world. Now, Boston is on course to make history today by electing its first woman and first person of color as mayor. Michelle Wu is facing off against fellow city council member Annissa Essaibi-George. Both are Democrats. Wu, who had an early lead in pre-election polls, would also be one of the only Asian-American mayors in a major U.S. city. Essaibi-George also grew up in an immigrant family. Nancy Chen looks at why Boston is finally ready to embrace change at the top.
The birthplace of the American Revolution has led the way with a history of firsts, but in one of the only major U.S. cities yet to elect someone besides a white man as mayor, Boston politics is now having a revolution of its own.
The two of us have been on different sides.
City councilors Annissa Essaibi-George and Michelle Wu are facing off in the historic race. Whoever wins will not only be the first woman elected mayor, but will also be the first person of color elected to that post.
Did you always want to get into politics?
It was never on any list of imagination or possibility.
At all?
Never.
Wu is the daughter of Taiwanese immigrants.
I remember growing up and never seeing anyone who looked like me on TV, in politics, and so the thought never crossed my mind that one day I could be part of these conversations.
Essaibi-George relates. Her parents also immigrated to the U.S., her father from Tunisia.
I can't help but think back to saying to my father that I had an interest in maybe running for office someday, and he said an Arab girl with an Arab name will win nothing in this city.
Both Essaibi-George and Wu say they strive to set a new example for their children.
What are the biggest issues that Boston is facing right now?
It is housing affordability, first and foremost.
Wu was the first woman of color to serve as city council president. Wu had a pivotal moment in 2008 when her mother struggled with a mental health crisis.
She went from being the person who held together so much of our family to not being able to care for herself, much less my younger sisters at home.
And how did that impact you wanting to get into politics?
It was a sense of just being invisible when it came to the types of help that my family needed. It felt like so many hoops to jump through.
I want to be your mayor.
Essaibi-George, a former public school teacher, is focused on education and economic recovery.
I think about the impact this pandemic has had on our small businesses.
I, Kim Janey.
This election comes just months after Boston's acting mayor, Kim Janey, was appointed, but only temporarily.
Could you have even imagined this for Boston 15 years ago?
Not even close.
Leanne Doherty teaches a class on female political leadership at Simmons University.
Why has it taken Boston so long to elect a mayor who is not a man, who is not white?
Perceptions of voters about how women can lead is very important, and Boston does take time in trying to make change.
And so while history is about to be made, both women are focused on the future. The race, they say, is about more than them.
The first is only relevant if there's a second, third, fourth, and then the door is wide open for everyone. And there's a lot more change where this is coming from.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Nancy Chen in Boston, Massachusetts.
Wow, whatever happens in Boston today, it's a new day in Boston. I like that.
I like what she said there. The first only matters if there's a second, third, fourth.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you're the only.
I like
which
that
is a very
too,
different
Tony.
thing to be.
Yeah, Annissa Essaibi-George, her father saying that a woman with that type of name would mean nothing, and here she is right now.
She said, Dad, I think you're wrong. I love the shot in the beginning of the two of them hugging before a debate. Very nice.
I know what's at stake.